In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. In Georgia, 1.1 million people requested vote-by-mail ballots, and the number continues to grow. 32% of the requests come from black voters. The Georgia Republican Party joined the Republican National Committee Tuesday in appealing a federal court decision requiring the counting of absentee ballots received up to 3 days after the November 3rd election. This is just one of the efforts to disenfranchise voters, specifically black voters across the country. Now, understand, folks, there are 40 days until Election Day. 40 days until Election Day. Republicans and Donald Trump, they are fighting every effort when it comes to counting as many ballots as possible. LaTosha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, she joins us right now. LaTosha, we are seeing black folks in Georgia right now, 1.1 million ballots. They still are requesting ballots there. I was reading Ron Brownstein on Twitter. He said that polling data is showing that black people there are sort of still trying to decide, do I vote by mail or do I vote in person? And a lot of people are actually trending towards voting in person because they're not trusting this process, especially with all the different rules that you got to do this and do that and follow all these procedures. What are you seeing and hearing as y'all are traveling all across the South on the Black Voters Matter bus?
That's exactly what we're hearing as well. People are concerned about the mailing in their ballots. They're also concerned about will they be counted. Also, if they get them in time. In our primary, there were hundreds of people, possibly even thousands. We don't even know the exact number of people who requested an absentee ballot and didn't get it in time. And people don't want to take that chance. So what we've been hearing is a lot of concern on the ground around mailing in their ballots if it will be counted. But what is even more egregious is that there are 200,000 voters who were unrighteously illegally taken off the voting rolls in Georgia. That Greg Palazzo, who was an investigative journalist, did a report for ACLU, and it came out about 2 weeks ago saying these 200,000 voters.
No. Right. There were 300,000 that were purged. 200,000 were in error. So they actually purged 300,000.
They actually purged 320,000, absolutely. And it was 200,000 are in error. You know, what makes matters worse is that all this time, even those of us that were been pushing and telling him that he needed to put them back, he kept demanding that he wanted the list. What is interesting is that we were like, no, our experts will sit with your experts to try to figure out how could you be so wrong? How could you have 200,000 names that were off the list? Who is your licensee? The National Voting Rights Act requires that there's a licensee that when you're clearing the list, that those names that are change of address, it can't just be a list that they come up with. You can't even get it from the Postal Service. You have to get a licensee, which is a vendor, an outside vendor, to really be able, they verify like 200 pieces of information to really be able to have this list that they come up with. And so all this time, we've been thinking that he just didn't want to give that information. In an interview that he did with CNN, it was revealed that he doesn't even have a licensee. So technically, it is just completely wrong. Not only is the information wrong, but it is illegal. Not is it only is illegal that he did it, but it was illegal in the process. He's never had a licensee to really be able to give him that list. So we don't know where he got this 200,000 names that are really wrong. And so right now he should put those folks back on the polls immediately, and we're demanding.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding for services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please, take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov.